Right, hello, we're live, and this is Virtually Connecting, and we're connecting with OEB 16, which is in Berlin. We're going to be speaking with Christian, and he's going to talk a little about himself and introduce the other people over in Berlin.
Yeah. So, hi, happy to be here. Greetings from Berlin at OEB 16. Oh, there's our next guest. Come on in. Come on, join us. We're here at OEB 16. It's the third day of the conference, and people have probably heard enough of me because I've been in the last two sessions as well. So I'd just like to go make a quick round of introductions to ourselves, and then take it from there, I guess.
Okay. I'm Aziza Ellozy, and I work with Hoda and with Maha and Nadine, so I feel very much at home here. It's the first time I'm virtually connecting, so I am very excited about it. And I'm the director of the center for which all of us work, the Center for Learning and Teaching. And if you want to know anything more about it, I'll let you know. So, Jan?
Yes, no, Jeannine.
Jeannine.
I'm Jeannine. I'm from Switzerland, from Basel. I work there as a researcher and filmmaker, and particularly the videos and this topic, but I also presented yesterday here at the conference, which is very interesting again. Because I don't know if Christian already mentioned that. There was like a lot of discussion about MOOC is already gone, it's like who killed the MOOC. But in my opinion, it's the wrong discussion right now. Maybe we come back to this later on. But this is the point here.
Okay, I'm Hoda Mustafa, and like I said, I work with a couple of people here who are here and online. I'm the associate director in the Center for Learning and Teaching. We were presenting today on digital narratives and their use in the classroom, and it was very interesting because a lot of people were not teachers, so it was a really good session.
Hi, my name is Ilona Buchem. I have actually just got here because I was sick the last 2 days, so I basically only slept for 2 days. But I feel better now, and I'm happy I can make at least the last day. And today about open badges. We have a session at 4:30, and yeah, and I cannot tell you much about the discussions that have been going on because, like I said, I just got here about an hour ago, but I've been attending the last online education conferences, and I'm sure it's as great as usual, and I'm looking forward to catching up with everybody and discussing with you.
Great. Frederick.
Hello. That's not me. Okay, my name's Frederick Graver. I'm head of studies at the Norwegian Film School, sitting in Lillehammer, surrounded by sunshine and snow. I'm very curious to hear about some of the discussions. I've looked through the workshop program that you've had there in Berlin. We've recently started some online education teacher training for filmmakers who and are trying to get some in addition to their film experience.
Hi, Helen DeWard in Central Ontario in Canada. It's nice and early here, so it's nice to see you all. I work with teacher candidates who are about to go into the teaching profession, and I work with digital media and media literacy, digital literacies, and digital storytelling.
Great. Maha.
My name is Maha Abdelmonem. I'm from Cairo, Egypt. I come from my background is from the corporate side as a trainer and coach, and these days I wear also the hat of an English teacher as a volunteer.
Hi, I'm Maha Bailey from Cairo, Egypt, and I work with half the people in this hangout. And I'm also the co-founder of Virtually Connecting, and it's great to be connecting with you all.
Over to you, Nadine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nadine Abulmagd. I work at the Center for Learning and Teaching at AUC as well with Dr. Aziza, Hoda, and Maha. I'm the online content developer there, so I work with faculty who design blended and online courses. So I'm very excited to be part of this.
Patrice.
Hi, I'm Patrice Presco, and I am in Ithaca, New York at Cornell University, where it's actually unseasonably warm right now. And I work primarily with faculty who are designing and developing MOOCs and online courses.
Thanks very much. And I'm Simon Ensor, and I'm over in Clermont-Ferrand in France, and it's really cold, and I teach English. So over to you in Berlin. Tell us a bit about what's going on.
Well, this morning, I mean, probably all of us have been to the plenary discussion this morning. There were two. I don't know, I've been to the limitless learning one. Anybody? Okay. Anybody went to the other one?
No.
So I found it interesting. I mean, I've never seen Ada Kuros speak live, and also Diane, whose last name I keep on forgetting. Thank you very much. Found that really interesting, and also there was the ambassador of Iceland to Germany, speaking about creativity and like the roots of creativity in the Icelandic nation, I guess. So that was a good start to the day, and I personally went to AI and blockchain and teaching after that. And I was a bit disappointed, I mentioned that earlier before we went live, that there were little chances for us to actually pose questions and then discuss some more of maybe even the ethical issues that are involved when you talk about AI, blockchain, and maybe even badges. There was not really space given for that, and I would really encourage OEB to do more of that. But I don't know about you, so you might have gone to different sessions than I have.
Hello. Oh, hi.
we have another on-site guest just arriving. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Inga.
Hello. I made it. Yay.
Hey, yay. Inga was one of the very first supporters of Virtually Connecting, like on our second conference. It was eMOOCs 2014, 15?
15.
Yeah, so would you want to quickly introduce yourself, maybe? I'm not sure everybody knows you.
No, I don't think I have.
But let's do it for me.
Yes. So, hello, my name is Inge de Waard. Like
Are you? Oh.
We're not related, or we don't, well, in a very distant past, who knows?
Sure.
But not. And I just finished a PhD at the Open University in the UK, but as you can hear from my accent, I'm actually from Belgium. So,
Nice to meet you.
Very happy to meet you, Inga.
yes, me too.
I actually have a short message to you, Helen, too. I was talking to someone at lunchtime from Canada.
Hey, who was it?
Yeah, if only I knew.
You'll track it down, and then you can tweet to me.
I will. He's coming to the session, he said. But he
And
said,
I'm really happy that Alec was there. He's a very he frequently talks to conferences here in Canada.
yeah. So maybe next year you can come over.
Oh, that would be a lovely trip. I have loads of family in Holland. Anyway, back to the conference.
Yep. Well, I attended the same session, the plenary sessions this morning. I particularly enjoyed the first two. And they were very different. One of them was more informal learning, and I enjoyed tremendously because he had videos of very creative young children doing very creative things. I have to bring them up. And then there came Diane. Well, the second
Lorillard?
Yes. And she gave the more formal approach, and I enjoyed it very much too. She did mention something about MOOCs since you're interested. She did say that MOOCs cannot be used for undergraduate studies, because then she gave a number of reasons. You don't assess them, you don't blah blah blah. But she said that it would be extremely useful for the teachers, and that is where we should be focusing our attention. That's what she thought that would be more useful. And but I thought it was a very good session. The other two, well, I have to say the last one I missed half of it, so I don't want to be unfair. He was also interesting. He was from Mozilla. Mozilla. Yes.
Yeah, Mark,
so I just thought the first two were much more useful to me and enjoyable. On the whole, I think the conference was uneven. Some of the sessions I don't think I learned much, and others were very good. So that's my overall impression so far.
Well, maybe I can add something to Diana. I just saw like her presentation, a similar one 2-3 weeks ago, and it was very great to see it again, because I think her thoughts about this whole topics are very interesting. So what she was actually highlighting today was also the types of learning. I have my notices here, and I mean maybe you're familiar with her writings. So she said, okay, we have the knowledge acquisition, which is very important. Inquiry is an important one. Practice, discussion base. Collaboration is different from discussion, very important point, and the production. And then in the end, she said, okay, what actually changes when we talk about learners today, the practice, what they do in digital age. So the acquisition, somehow like the lecturing, gets less. We have more inquiry, so the learners have to engage themselves. We have more discussion going on and more time for production. And I think this is a key thinking when we talk about online learning, about MOOCs, whatever format it is. So we have to design something where they can engage themselves very actively, especially also with its discussion. I agree totally what she said about that. So for me, this was actually one of the key points what she talked today in the keynote speech. Wow.
No, I mean, I think the takeaway that in today's plenary and yesterday is the kind of the difference of opinion. So yesterday's plenary was obvious that they were attempting to bring, the whole spectrum of people who were, I mean, one of the thing was Trisha Wong, where she said MOOCs suck. And today, for the audience of almost 2,000 people, and then today was referencing back to, some people say that, but there's a place for it, and even if there are some concerns, I'm not an expert on MOOCs, but I have failed repeatedly at completing a lot of MOOCs. I completed a couple, and then I realized how difficult it might be for undergraduate students to complete unless they're specifically maybe designed for that kind of audience. But I like the diversity. I think they made an attempt to get different speakers from different sides of the argument. Today, I particularly liked Alec Couros, right? It's the first time I've heard him speak, and he had a lot of questions for the audience. So I think it was really, really a good session. I think he focused a lot on the question of, if you can Google it, this question of acquiring knowledge, and what can you, he gave a very interesting assignment, which I'd love to try with students, which is, or respond to it. The prompt was, what can you learn, right, outside of the classroom? What was it? What can you learn without using the classroom? So it was something like learning how to play the guitar, learning how to do this, learning how to do that, using the internet, basically. All these things that we can learn informally and using that and maybe benefiting from it in the classroom. That was one of the
and that's interesting, because he has had his students do that and then blog about the experience. And so it's really interesting to read some of the responses that his students come up with, and why they think that's such a great assignment to do.
Guys, you're saying Alec Couros is at OEB 16 and we missed having him on Virtually Connecting again? I'm going to go crazy.
Yet again, we missed him last year at Can Connect.
Helen, I have a question for you, may I? Are his students K-12 students or higher education?
His students are teacher candidates, so they're going into the teaching profession. but they will be teaching K to 12.
Okay, because he does have very interesting, I thought, very interesting.
Yeah, so he does similar to me, where we bridge both systems. We have a foot in both camps.
Now that it's the last day of the conference, we're actually demolishing the furniture as well here. So I think we're ready to leave by tonight. Good.
I love how everybody is standing now, and it's a majority of women.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm completely outnumbered.
And the hangout as well. It's a majority of women here.
Yeah, but the hangouts are often a majority of women because women travel less in general, I think, in my little world. But on the other side, it's sometimes an effort to make sure that we have a good diversity of people on site.
So I think it's about the takeaway for this day. I also, what I liked was that the Alecuros was much more in favor of informal learning options and increasing the the digital and attention literacies of everybody involved in learning, to prepare everybody for learning, while Diana Lorillard was taking a much more formal view on it. And although I like the fact that that creates rich ideas, because where at a certain point the real discrepancy between them was Diana Lorillard, who showed her conversational framework, took out a teacher and focused on how this impacts the learning, and used it as a way to say, look, this is why we still need a teacher, because not all learning can be solved without teachers, which is yes, as a facilitator, yes. So that was kind of nice to see these two different approaches to learning in the same plenary debate, which I really liked. I will blog about it, but I had a session afterwards, so I hadn't had chance to get my texts out there, but I will add the pictures I've taken as well, because I had you all in mind to have a look at, well, if you want to later and see what we talked about.
So, Inga, how did your session go?
The one on personalized learning. Well, it was a reproduction of myself, so chaotic, yeah. But we did manage to pull out a lot of ideas, and especially, so we started out with the challenges of personalized learning from everybody in the room and what they did to try and facilitate personalized learning. And then at a certain point, we try to jot down the solutions. So we have, I have like 10 flip chart papers with challenges and solutions, which I'm now going to kind of pull together in a structure that can be used for others. But the main thing that came out was, if you want to cater for personalized learning, you need to look at the meta layer of learning, because you can't create content for different media all at the same time to cater to different learners, but you can teach them how to produce content that others can learn, and then also learning to share, or to learning to collaborate. So it was much more, at a certain point, there was this meta layer of learning which became much more visual as a means to really tackle the problem of personalized learning, and also self-evaluation of everything that you learn. That was also one of the major. I hope that gives an idea.
Yeah, I was in your session yesterday, I think, and that was the personalized learning thing, wasn't it?
No.
Or was it the data?
Data
in education. And I remember that there was a panel that, and I dropped in late, so I might have missed it, but that was very uncritical of the use of data in education. But I loved your first question. You pretended to just come up with one. and asked
What was
for
the question?
it was a question regarding, I think, to the role of biases and prejudices that might be amplified by the use of tech in data analytics, and I really like that. But I don't think everybody got the question, which kind of scared me, to be honest.
There is like what else? There is a huge gap between all the participants of the conference and the sessions. Yes, I agree. So it's sometimes difficult to find a common knowledge starting point to really get the most out of the session, I think.
I have a question about that. Is the conference like in themes or tracks so that you sort of know if you have a certain interest in a particular area that this session addresses that? Okay.
Yeah, there are tracks. At least they named them. And
like business track and open academic track and networking sessions. Business, I said. Openness track, but that needs to be taken like with openness. It's not. I mean, talking to this group, it's like.
It's like we're the secret league of.
I mean, the main problem, but I think Christian, somebody said before, the format is mostly very frontal, so there's not much time for discussion in each format I was sitting in. But not in Christian ones, because there we started to work together, but the time was not enough in the end, so there should be longest discussion, especially because we have this diversity of people with different backgrounds, so we have to find a common sense, and you can only work on that when you somehow discuss before and see where is your group coming from. And I think we are strongly, I think every conference has this problem, almost every conference. We still have this traditional format, which is not suitable mostly.
This keeps coming up at Virtually Connecting sessions, that we want to modify, rethink formats and conferences so that they focus more on the real benefit, which is the conversations, than the frontal mode. You're right. And especially you can always, someone could just record a video and people can watch it online, or they can read their blog or their articles, but being together in the same space, what can you do with that beyond that? Dr. Aziza, I think you were trying to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, and yet when I first came in, the way they had them seated, the way they seemed to be going, I thought would be that there would be some presentations, but mostly conversation. It looked like one of the panels that we do, and then but that didn't pan out. It really was, everyone was presenting, and we had barely enough time at the end to ask one or two questions.
How is that compared to earlier OEPs? Because I don't think any. But how does that compare to like OEP 15 and 14? Because I always was looking in from the outside, but was really sure about the.
I don't know. I've been here for a couple of times, and I think the large advantage or the nice point about Online Educa is that we have people from academia, and we have people from companies and from vocational training, and really from all the different contexts. So it's not like a typically academic conversations going, which makes sometimes difficult. Sometimes makes it difficult, but sometimes it makes it also vibrant. When you just get to know other types of thinking and other perspectives, and But I'm not sure. I think last year we didn't have this format of 1 hour. I think the short sessions like this year, I've seen them for the first time, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they were like a few, but this year is a lot of shorter sessions. So it's not only like an hour and a half or 2 hours, a lot of 1 hour or half an hour, like breakthrough, what are they called? Spotlight, spotlight sessions. So I think that's the step towards making the presentations shorter and conversations longer, probably.
But there's no time between presentations to have the conversation.
The setting is deceptive, even in the smaller ones, because there's sitting racks and there's a moderator there, and you think that it's a conversation that's going to happen. But it really, the presentations take a long time.
But I saw pictures that Huda posted on Twitter from, I think, your session, where you looked like you were making them do things. Was that one of the longer sessions?
That's a workshop.
So the workshops have more time, kind of like Christian had yesterday.
But with regard to the sessions I chaired, those were like long sessions. One was 2 hours, one was an hour and a half, I think. And then it is up to the chair to actually create a space where conversations can take place, because everybody wants, all the speakers, not all the speakers, but many of the speakers want more time for their session. And so I actually cut down the presentation time considerably to enable a conversation afterwards, which we like, yeah. But some actually said, can't it be a little bit longer? So I had to say each presentation 5 minutes, and then, oh, okay, you want it a little bit longer, 10 minutes. First, it was set as for 20 minutes. But,
so I mean, she was the chair in my session. I mean, for my opinion, it was very good to reduce it to 8 minutes. And then we had like a lot of discussion going on afterwards. Yeah, and this was very fruitful, because then you can really see where are the questions coming from, how can we help them also, because of this diversity. So it helps pretty much. Yeah, in my opinion, it's great.
Some kind of
exactly. And I mean, as researchers, at least you have to be trained to keep short talks and to come to one point. It's a good exercise always. It doesn't matter. It's like it's a good training always.
Yeah. And I mean, our session yesterday, where at least the two of you, Inge and Jeannine, were in, I think lots of the people here at the conference aren't really used to that space of discussion and talk and conversation, which might draw back to the diversity within the group, so to speak. And I think I mentioned that like 10 or around about 50% of the audience left after the frontal presentation of input was over. And when they recognized they had actually to do something and to work, they left the room, and that might have been one of the many reasons for that. So, but I'm not sure about that.
Maybe it's a good time to talk about our workshop, because our workshop really also was the frontal part was presentation, and I thought maybe we were when we give our workshop, they're very interactive, so we don't talk very much. This one happened to be one in which we had to give some kind of a background, which usually is a little longer than we usually do. But when we gave them a task, it was very hard to stop them from working. You know, it was really, we asked them to do a storyboard, and they really were very involved.
They came up with some very interesting stuff. They worked energetically, and they're very engaged.
They're very engaged, and they came up with actual products, which is also unusual. And I tell you, see, it's but you could see at first that they're not used to talking, and then but once they started doing something,
I think also that they were a diverse group. So when we asked them, they were from educational background, teaching, and from industry and IT and admin support and things like that. But I think because the project or the topic was very generic, it was neutral. There's no, it wasn't very controversial. It wasn't very, it's just something that we find works, and we think it's a good idea, and we're sharing our experiences. So I think that may be part of why they were. It was
it's an element of creativity,
like pizza.
and
Everybody loves pizza.
Yeah.
So we were serving pizza. You can discuss all sorts of.
I was wondering if we could shift the conversation a little bit back to MOOCs, which I'm interested in hearing about, and especially, you mentioned they were talking about using them for teachers, and I was wondering if there's any discussion of using them for professional development. And also, what are people doing to measure the return on investment, not from a financial standpoint, but what impact are people who take MOOCs, what are they going out into the world and doing, and how are they making a difference in impacting people on the planet?
Apart from the interesting plenary with Diane, where she was talking about the MOOC for teachers and blended learning effects and all that, I just come out of the session by Donald Clark on the blockchain, and he just mentioned on the side that it was an interesting and very one-dimensional way of looking at it, I think. I think he measured the impact of MOOCs by the valuation of Udacity as a company being worth, like being the unicorn that it is now of $1 billion. And so can't be that if a company that offers them or used to offer them, I mean, the pivot there is pretty obvious, but MOOCs can't be that if a company that used to offer them is now worth $1 billion US. So that was his valuation. So a very economical, very one-dimensional take on these things, but I'm not sure they probably have come up, this being a European conference, at other sessions as well, right?
That's the one. It was mentioned, like I said, the first in the two plenary session, one of them had this negative comment to make. I think Diane also said that they're really made for people that are professionals and that can take advantage of it, and that's how we should be using it. That the professionals should be using to train others, to teach others, etc., to use it as their own lifelong learning thing, but trickle-down effect, if you wish, and use it specifically for teaching and education.
I think, can I just interject here, because I think a lot of the conversations that happen around MOOCs are happening with people from different mindsets. And I remember listening to Diana Lorillard about a year ago talking about the MOOC she was giving on FutureLearn, and thinking Diana Lorillard is one of the people who is a pioneer in e-learning. And she's still thinking about e-learning from the mindset of the early 2000s. And I think you can't really use that mindset for now. And there are very few people who are making that connection. And so when you talk about what e-learning was and what was good about e-learning in 2003, 2005, it's completely different to what the potential of e-learning is right now. And Donald Clark is also one of the older people. I know it's not about age, it's just about, their mindset is maybe slightly different than a lot of the people who are now leading these areas. And so I was wondering what you guys thought of that, or if you heard something different. Or...
I think you're right. And thank you for adding that it's not about age. But to me, I also was quite surprised when Diana took out the teacher and as an effect on the learning, and that she mentioned that MOOCs were, well, I agree that it's mostly taken by highly educated people, but I used it in K-12 education, where students could just choose any MOOC they wanted to, and they would could do whatever they liked. So they could go through the complete MOOC or just select sections or anything. And as a result, their digital literacy went up, and 74% of the students that took that course in secondary school actually started to take their own MOOCs, to follow their own MOOCs. So I think, okay, the assessments will not be the same quality, possibly or probably, but if the Flemish-speaking K-12 students can take out things that are really useful for their own passionate learning goals, then it can help everybody. So that's my take on it.
Related? I don't think it. I just evaluation or assessment.
Had something that I remarked that you were talking about. You talked about MOOCs and adults and the separation of ages. Well, I think of my kids doing official MOOCs, with communities, gaming, and together on forums, and they share their things that they're doing. For me, I don't really see the difference.
Yeah, I agree.
They're learning on their own, and they're doing it much better than I could.
I agree 100%, and I was actually thinking about the same thing, that when you think about informal learning, people are doing it all the time on forums and on interest groups. And they're doing it in huge numbers. So what is the real difference between that and learning from a MOOC, especially the CMOOC, the connected ones?
Actually, one of the presenters, and I can't remember who, brought up YouTube and said, well, that is, the ultimate MOOC. Or something like that.
It was Alec. I'm curious because, so you're drawing a comparison between the learning that kids require on a video game forum or a PlayStation kind of tutorial environment where they're watching videos of other people succeeding at levels and they're learning from watching the tutorial, because my kids do that all the time. But I'm questioning, is it the same as, because I'm the MOOC environment where they do that for 3 weeks, or they do that
In a more structured way.
in a more structured way, where here they're having, are MOOCs designed to be fun? That's the question.
If I can come in here. When I talk about interest groups and informal learning, I'm not talking only about videos. I'm talking about people asking in forums for solutions to problems. And I'll give you one example. I took an ex-MOOC about coding, and they use Scratch for that. My niece, who was at the time about 11 or 12, she didn't like to do her math and geometry homework. But because she saw me and she said, "Oh, your homeworks are much nicer." So I thought, okay, come and help me do them, because I'm not able to design the game on my own. And at one point of time, we needed to calculate an angle to decide on the trajectory, the correct trajectory for the character in the game. And she was willing to sit there for an hour looking on the internet on how to calculate, to design, and how to get that character moving the correct way using math and geometry and everything else that she doesn't like to study. So I'm not talking about video. I'm talking about actually going into really sometimes complicated text to find information.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that the point is the potential of the massive open online learning. So it don't have to be courses that are limited in any way or offered from a particular provider, but just the potential of the massiveness of what's available out there and the openness that you can find it and then people just figure it out and they learn it on their own. I think that potential is tremendous for all ages. And then when people develop them for education, then you have better quality of that kind of resource available online than if nobody was developing with an educational purpose, but then, not just the ones that are closed into courses. But yes, and thanks for that story, Maha. That's amazing about your niece.
And one more, just a quick comment. It's interesting to hear that they thought that it's not for undergrads, that it's better for people who are actually working, because I just read something online, someone actually criticizing the MOOCs for not being suitable for working people. And I can't remember the article, but I'll try to find it and post it later.
Well, I think the whole idea is that undergraduate, formal learning is still pretty much structured around assessment, around clicking the boxes and stuff like that. And so if MOOC doesn't follow that, if it doesn't abide with that, then it's still it becomes more difficult to accept by the more formal traditional way of teaching. So she threw in the thing, they're not assessed, they're not given credit, etc., as the reasons why they cannot be used. So it's not that it's not a good course, it's not a good design, it's not a good material, it's because it cannot be adopted.
She's still thinking of very traditional forms of assessment. Ilona is going to be talking about open badges. There are people talking about competency-based assessment. Once you stop looking at traditional forms of assessment and try to imagine if employers could potentially assess someone based on what they actually can do and what they know, regardless of what grades they got at an institution, then maybe people who do MOOCs will be able to get jobs because they can demonstrate that they know something, that they can do something. I don't know what other people think. By the way, Laura Ritchie joined us from the UK, but we haven't introduced her.
No.
I don't know. I just had this thought that maybe MOOC is like, we can think about it as a product and as a process. I think once we have like a social context and a process where something is happening with other people and you just get out there and do it because you want it, and it's a different thing as when you have a product that is simply a content that was produced is also great, but there's nothing happening around it, no interaction, no no learning really going on around it. So maybe that's also where so many MOOCs are, you know, they have been produced, they have been used, but then it's like another silo of data and of content that is not used again. But it's available, so it can be still picked up. Just a thought.
It's also about just creating a support network and making connections. And, you know, I've been trying to look at it to, you know, if we look at helping women persist in STEM, and there's a lot of discussion about the need for mentors and helping women see all the different possible professions. And how can we use this space to help create those connections and that support network?
Yeah. I think, Laura, you had a question or a comment as well, right? We can't hear you at the moment, though. No, we see you move your lips. Yes.
I can do a voiceover of your face if you want to.
Lip read.
Turn on her microphone.
No, she's unmuted, I think, but for some reason.
That's too bad.
You're with us.
She's played her cello on Hangouts before, so her audio usually works.
Maybe play and somebody could read it.
There, she is going to try the headphones, I think. Yeah.
It's collaborative tech support.
The user help desk brought to you by Connection.
We've been talking about how virtually connecting helps build digital literacies and technical skills as well. So we're all very good at this now.
One of the things that has come up as well was the making the learning visible. That was mentioned a couple of times, which I really liked.
Which session was that? It was called Making the Learning?
No, in personalized learning and also yesterday, but then I don't know in which session.
I think it was mentioned in the session that I visited on data. And they were talking about making like data points visible to students where they would be able to then track back their learning path, so to speak, I think. At least that's the way I understood it. Yeah, and that was one of the issues where they were actually going into like concepts of transparency of data and ownership of data and all that. That as far as I recall, at least. Yeah, but I like that part of it, that you could actually look back on something that you have done, and you might actually know that there's no straight learning curve or anything like that, or a straight learning path.
I mean, maybe to add something, there was also like one of the presentations in the same panel about gamification, and I'm personally not so convinced that it's somehow it's an overused term. And if we go back to this, somehow the learning process visible. Maybe we don't need this avatar thing because it somehow is a redundant system. It's always the same. So to collect points and to motivate people, but do they really need that? This would be my question. And to make it visible, just what you did, and you can see. So maybe it's more the truthful way. I don't know. This would be, because I'm not a big fan of this term. Gamification is overused. I mean, what I always say is we rather use playification, like playing, because we learn a lot when you play. No, seriously. So I like this term rather, compared to gamification. So I don't know. Just to add this to this point, turn on Twitter now. Start meeting now. The playification is really not. Christian, I have a question to you.
Okay.
About the blockchain, because it's also part of the open badges discussion. What was Donald Clark saying?
Well, he wasn't saying too much, actually. I was hoping that he would go into specifics, but he mentioned like the what's it called again? The initiative by Doug Belshaw, the Open Badges Alliance, I think, and also the history of peer-to-peer networks. So he used Skype as one of the examples as the first voice over IP services, and he really wasn't referring to into details. He basically said it was as he does, and I like listening to him because he's a good speaker, but very very few points I actually agree with, to be honest. I mean, his first starting hypothesis was that in the sense that teachers design their own curriculum because that can be industrialized and done in different ways, and then the blockchain comes in and basically standardizes everything. It's a horrible idea. Yeah, but then again, no room for questions, so no way to challenge that concept in the room. So there were 200 people or something like that, all with the mindset, okay, let's standardize our curriculum. So,
yeah, but they had those chat boxes. I thought that it was going to be.
Yeah, weren't used at all.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, got a microphone.
Yay!
So my question, going back, listening, and I don't know everybody's name. Somebody was saying that presenting about personalized learning, and then there's the MOOCs, and then there's the problem of institutional learning and how different things aren't accepted. So I'm one, and then the fantastic value of actually people doing things on their own. And there's an amazing back channel discussion of how pop-up learning and the value of conversation and watching it happen as you guys are all starting to flow and actually discuss all the things is amazing. So how, this is for you, our experts, how can you embed some of these practices, the personalized learning, embedding the conversation, bringing the less formal but still incredibly valuable and very valid learning into more formal spaces? Any suggestions welcome?
I'll jump in, Laura. I've actually run a hangout in a physical seminar classroom so that the students can experience how the hangout actually happens and have a conversation with the chat box going right in the classroom when we're sitting together.
I've got one of my students here as well. It's quite fun.
Doing the hangout live in the classroom is it's a great idea. Thanks. I've been trying to get an online class going for Nordic filmmakers this fall, and everyone is just too uncomfortable. They're not familiar with the technology. You'd think filmmakers like technology, but the computer is a foreign instrument to them. But we're having a gathering in February, so I'm going to try that. Try the live hangout and do some of the online stuff live in the workshop.
Dress the computer up as a video camera. Maybe they'll take to it.
You'd think, but no, it's been really hard getting them started. I wonder if that's been part of the conversation there, is doing especially this kind of teacher training, professional training online. I find anyway, a lot of the people I want to include are really uncomfortable with interacting online. Quite sure how to make it easier for them.
It's interesting.
I was say Catherine Cronin told me that she does Twitter hangouts in class, so that if students don't want to be, actually participate in the Twitter chat themselves, they participate together as a class. And I think sometimes she uses video conferencing and brings everybody in and they participate. And I thought that was a really great way to kind of ease people into it and bring that informal learning in if they are initially a little bit uneasy to, take that step.
I think also if things aren't live streamed at first, people will be more comfortable with them. I think the live streaming scares a lot of people, and the recording and all that, but if it's done less formally, it takes a lot of time to get used to. I have an article from 2013 or 14 where I talk about how much I hate synchronous video. And then I co-founded this thing where we do it like 3 or 4 times a month. So it takes a while just to get comfortable with it, I think. And just doing it in a low stakes kind of environment will help. But I think Laura's question was a little bit broader than that. I think she was just talking about, if I'm right, they were talking more about just bringing these beautiful informal learning experiences into classes that still are part of institutions, that still give grades. And I wish we could just change in our institutions so they don't give grades. But I still think that within our own spheres of influence and control, within our own classes, we can make some changes. And so I think it would be interesting to hear what people in the room or online are doing about that.
Maha, you would have been surprised by the exhibition at OEB, because you can't you can't imagine how many stalls there are to ensure that students do not cheat tests. So, I mean, can you imagine how bad is a test if they cannot leave it open? I mean, so.
And also, just the notion of cheating came up a couple of times at the conference, and I remember we had Liz Losh over at Lafana for a conference last year, and she was talking about cheating as learning as well. And I think it's from her book, The War on Learning. So that's a great segue into that, actually. So it's part of life, I guess.
But also it's the challenge of, like you say, having questions that you cannot answer by cheating. So I mean, it's somewhat laziness on our part, or on the facilitator, of creating these questions, creating these possibilities.
I think a couple of us here at OEB want to go back to their sessions, which the next slot will start in 8 minutes. So people will have to run, at least parts of us. So not sure if there's any last questions or...
Okay, thank you very much, Christian.
And one thing, Frederick.
Have to go.
You said something about film and so on. So I would be interested to hear more from your side what your point is and so on. I mean, not now because I also have to rush up, but if you can maybe write something, maybe we can get connected, and I would be interested to hear your side.
Yeah, no, you can get me on Twitter at @Graver.
Okay. Good. All right.
All right. Okay. Well, it was great connecting with you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Frederick, for a wonderful conference. Christian, of course, not Frederick. Sorry. Thank you, Christian.
We might be having that today after 3:30. So we'll see about that.
What did you just say? What did you just say?
Oh, no, did you see the tweet by Alec Kuros?
He might be able to come?
He would be available after 3:30, so let's figure something out to make that happen if you'd like.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me scramble to make that happen. Okay. Helen, would you be available to VB that? Christian, if you have to go, go ahead. I'm just going to try to see if we have someone here who can handle that session.
Let's
okay.
see.
Okay. All right. Bye. Bye. Helen, would you be available for that? That's 2 hours from now. Yes. Helen or Maha, of course, or Nadine.
Yep.
Yeah, you can?
I logged in.
Excellent.
So I don't think that would be a good idea. I
yeah, no.
Yeah. My Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Oops. So Helen, if
bye, guys. I could join as participant in a couple of hours, but I have to go now.
Okay.
Okay, Nadine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simon, so much. Okay, so Helen, could you create it on the Google Doc, and I'll try to help promote it, and we'll promote it inside Slack. Okay, I have to run right now. I have to go. All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Everyone. Bye-bye. Would you like me to stop the broadcast, or do you want to continue?
Yeah. Why don't we just stop, and then we can continue, after we're done.
Off live, yeah?
Yeah.
So that was Virtually Connecting, coming from Berlin and other places.